Well, you are joining us with round one of competition, and now the final heat of this opening round. Two Australians in Tyler Wright and Dimity Stoyle taking on Johanne Defay. Now take note, Tyler Wright ranked 6th on the Jeep leaderboard, and Johanne Defay ranked 7th.
And I think that that's something that has been paying off for her, and she knew what the read was, and she was out there and committed to that North Peak, and it paid off.
Well, here we go. Now, technically, we've been talking strategy, we've been talking tide. Johanne Defay will have done a lot of time and service as she's built her professional career competing just around the corner here.
Well, especially, I mean, taking out in the quarterfinals there, taking out Lakey, that would be an event that obviously Lakey would be a favorite. That was her first big win.
Yep.
Was that Vans US Open at Huntington Beach. Again, Californian, just very comfortable, surfed Huntington Beach throughout her entire amateur career. And then up and riding here, we got some live action.
All right, so we are picking up Tyler Wright here, our surfer, highest ranked in this, as she is our 6th place on the Jeep leaderboard. Now, Tyler, coming from New South Wales, Australia, will be looking to force a number now. She really has nothing to talk about. Meanwhile, now Dimity Stoyle out of the Sunshine Coast will get going here, and this is a very constructive wave for Dimity. Great opener here for her. She's invested a full 10 minutes in wave selection here, Peter, and I'll tell you what, she's nailed some big turns on the outside, and that's going to be a very helpful number in the bigger picture of this encounter.
But you know it's going to be later, so you make that adjustment and you go out there and pretty crazy stuff. Well, here you go, replay of Dimity Stoyle here, backhand attack, coming off one of her best events of the season. You know, again, in danger of not re-qualifying, so it needs to keep that momentum up. It needs to make more heats here in order to keep her place on tour. You know, the QS is pretty much done, and so now she hasn't qualified in those top spots, as you see live action here.
All right, so let's pick up on Dimity Stoyle, who is not only building momentum in 2015, but right here in this heat. So heat 6 encounter, Dimity Stoyle now busy with wave number 2 on screen. A 617 achieved on her opening ride, now looking to send a second score for the judges. Now we'll watch very closely for that number. Still 17 minutes remaining, so we're not even anywhere near the halfway mark just yet. Now Defay up and riding. Now she'll want to try and replicate what Dimity Stoyle just achieved, and we'll try and stick with her. Meanwhile, here we go, Tyler Wright, big forehand attack for her. So there's that big maneuver on the outside, Peter. We're watching this exchange take place. So Defay, Stoyle, Wright, all now making those adjustments to the conditions. That one's not going to connect for Tyler Wright. So she had a previous score of a 4. Judges working on that one now, but it's not going to bring her into the discussion just yet, because that opener of Dimity Stoyle, by far the best one, is 6.17. All right, so judges working on a number for Tyler Wright, and in the meantime, Dimity Stoyle banks a 3.33, backs it up with her opener of a 6.17 for a heat lead. So right now, our surfer in white, Dimity Stoyle out of the Sunshine Coast, is in the lead here, Peter. Tyler Wright's just banked a 4.4, so now dropping her requirements a little more easily to a 5.11. So little tussle developing here between our two Australians.
You gotta love it, and we're at that halfway mark now.
Yeah, I'll stick on this, I think, for this event.
You know, you were talking about, you know, the normal Firewire board doesn't dent up on the deck because they're so strong, but these boards actually dent up like a regular polyester board.
Yeah, I'm finding that's a really cool difference to the rest of the year. I've had the old construction where those footwells aren't really present because it's a really strong material. So for it to wear sort of similar to that PE board, it feels really nice underfoot and almost like a comfy pair of shoes.
Well, there you have it, looking good, and congratulations, and well, we can't wait to see you skip that round.
Thanks heaps and all the crew back at home. Thanks for watching, and I'm sending all my love.
Go the Wallabies.
Well, we won't talk rugby just yet. That's because I'm the South African in this discussion. But we did just see a great wave play out for Johanne Defay there. Currently lying 3rd, Peter, and well, a requirements of a 6.93. There you see her on screen now heading back. It's a long couple of 100 yards to burn to get back to the main peak. She's got plenty of time, 12.5 remaining on the clock, and I think this is going to be a good number for Johanne Defay. Let's go through this.
Well, check this out. On the back end again, she's really comfortable going left. You know, she grew up on those reef breaks of Reunion Island, so she's solid on her feet going on the back end. Looks very impressive. Knows how to attack the lip vertically. Here, look, it gets that connection with speed. That was tough make there, and she did it no problem. Gets the inside, now switches to the forehand, wraps the cutty, and then gets the steep section and attacks. That's exactly what she needs to do. Punches the fins a bit and rides out of it, and that's where the judges can see that she has control. She completed the move, and again, adding some points. You know, she has a pair of 2s. That's going to be much better for her.
Welcome from, well, everyone at home. The Australians will be watching Tyler Wright and Johanne Defay here with interest. And of course, a Friday evening there for you guys. Meanwhile, while we were at break, Tyler Wright just squares up a maneuver on the outside there, Peter. It's those maneuvers we're talking about on the outside for the points, but the ever-changing tides here in Europe, a point of discussion.
Yeah, and just another throwaway score for Tyler Wright right there. It's not going to be something that she's going to be able to keep in that scoreline. And looking at her scoreline, pair of 4s, a 4.0 and a 4.44, or sorry, 4.40. Not scores that she would like to keep in her scoreline. Ultimately, you'd like to see something in the good range, anywhere from 6 to 8, or even excellent 8 to 10. And right now, this is a low-scoring affair. Right now, Dimity Stoyle in single digits, a 9.50 2-wave total with still 8 minutes to go. So I'm sure that that allocation, or I'm sorry, that total will rise.
Having a look at Johanne Defay, that she did get a 4.83 on that connection through to the inside just before the break there. So that number has locked for Johanne Defay, still lying third, a requirements of a 4.68. There you see top left of screen. That's what those numbers mean.
And they know how tight the point allocations are for each surfer sitting in third and second, and also Dimity looking in there. So you start competing against the surfers in the lineup rather than looking for the highest quality waves. You want to stay next to your competitors here and make sure that if you and utilize that party at the backstage.
So heat leader Dimity Stoyle will now try to widen the gap and cement a lead here by trying to drop a low score, and one of her counting rides is a 3.33, so that's what that decision was here. And meanwhile, an exchange coming our way here. Tyler Wright, surely she can pull out something big here. No, that wave is not affording the situation or the opportunity, and Tyler Wright again. So a quick exchange there. You were talking about bunched scores here, Peter, and I've got a feeling that's a fairly bunched set of numbers as well for the judges.
Yeah, it's not going to change much. I mean, we could see Dimity go up a little bit there. That 5th place would cement her spot probably into that top 10 position. She could easily move up, especially if those competitors are ahead of her as we watch live action.
All right, so here we go now. Johanne Defay with some motion as we move into the back 5 minutes of this heat. You see that clock in the top left of corner. It never stops. It keeps going. And Johanne Defay, not a big requirement, Peter, 4.68. Can't help but think that she never really again managed to get the gears grinding there for a bigger number than, you know, a mid-range score of the Cascais Women's Pro. And Peter, take us through this here, because this is Johanne Defay looking for a big number.
Well, that was a nice first turn. You know, she kept her speed through the bottom turn, little bobble there, and then this wave dies out. So she really wasn't able to connect it to that inside section to really solidify and finish that score, but a pretty good turn. You know, and considering that she's holding on to a 2.57, she does have the highest single wave, which is a 4.83, so she doesn't need a huge score. But a 4.68 in order to catch Dimity. I'm sorry, I take that back. Dimity Stoyle has the best wave of the heat. The second highest score of the heat is Johanne Defay. And that's really been the difference, is that first exchange, Dimity Stoyle getting the best of it, and that has her in the lead.
All right, so judges are working on a number now for Johanne Defay in that exchange. Of course, Tyler Wright waiting to lock a score as well. And let's just have a look at Dimity Stoyle here. Now, Dimity Stoyle will be wanting to just nudge a score and increase requirements for the other 2 surfers here, Peter.
And she doesn't have priority. It's not
going to happen there.
Yeah, well, and she doesn't have priority, so ultimately she can kind of do that. She can kind of hunt underneath and try and catch a, you know, a mediocre sized wave, and ultimately maybe it gives her that extra section to be able to improve. She does do it. She does improve by about almost a point. So that helped her out, Dimity.
All right, so what has happened out in the lineup in that last exchange of rides is Johanne Defay has climbed a number. So Dimity Stoyle still leading this heat, but now Johanne Defay slips into that 2nd place position. A 5.62 is a requirement. Meanwhile, Tyler Wright's not going to be happy down in that 3rd slot. And, you know, looking at these conditions, you think Tyler, the way she attacks, she could just pull a big number out at any moment.
You know, I think that if she were to get a little of that fight in there too, I think that her results could edge up a little bit. But she's such a sweetheart that they are all good friends on tour, and ultimately the priority is set up that way so that your surfing does do the talking.
All right, so surfers on screen will now hear that this heat number 6 has wrapped up, and your lady in white, Dimity Stoyle, out of the Sunshine Coast, will be very happy with that heat win in this opening round.